This is Pete Fletzer. On this episode of Around the Galaxy, we're talking to internet comedian and musician Cam Ray.
I feel like, oh no, someone's going to think I'm a jerk. I always say I'm not a jerk in real life, but I play one on Twitter. So, and that comes from just all the drama that you see on there.
You're listening to Around the Galaxy.
Welcome to episode number 146 of Around the Galaxy, the Star Wars fan talk show. I am your host, Pete Fletzer. Thank you so much for joining us. If this is your first visit with Around the Galaxy, thank you so much for joining us. I got to ask you, though, what took you so long? Where have you been? We've done this 145 times. You're finally joining us. No, in all seriousness, thank you so much for checking us out. I would ask you to hit the subscribe button, though, because you may not know that we do 2 shows a week as part of Around the Galaxy. During the front of the week, at Monday or Tuesday, we drop our one-on-one interviews for Around the Galaxy, where we get to know the people behind the fandom. We talk to people who have a great story to tell, whether they're Star Wars authors or Oscar-winning effects artists or actors or social media voices, or people like Cam Ray, who we're talking to this week. And then later in the week, on Saturdays, we drop something called Disturbances in the Force, and we give you all the Star Wars news from the previous week with no spin, no speculation, no clickbait, none of that. We like to say, give us 5 minutes and we'll give you the galaxy. So Tuesdays, you get Around the Galaxy. Saturdays, you get Disturbances in the Force, but only if you hit that subscribe button. So please make sure to do that. Well, this week's episode is with a gentleman named Cam Ray. Cam is somebody who I've gotten to know over the years since I've been doing the show and hanging out on social media. Cam is one of the funniest guys in the social media realm, just focusing on Star Wars. He's a super talented musician. I'm probably not supposed to say this, but Silver Colored Knob, my little side gig there, we're working on a song with him right now. But he does his own really funny songs, and in fact, in this episode, we do get a little taste of his upcoming song called Kathleen Kennedy. It's really funny. I think you're going to enjoy it. And so hang out for that. And before we get to that, though...
Hello? Hey.
No, AT, I was just...
Hello? No, hey, I was are we gonna...
All right, it's yours. Every week we do this.
No, we don't do this every week. You just forget me every week.
It's all you. Go for it.
Okay,
it's
thank
you.
you.
Go.
I wish you were just a little more patient.
I try.
Okay. Hey, remember last week I tried to do your Patreon pitch for you?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, well, this time I wrote something down, and I think I can do it.
All right.
I think I got this. Are you ready?
Let's hear it. Do it.
Okay. Do you have $3 a month that you don't know what to do with? Are you bored at least one night a week and would like to sit and watch a live stream with Pete talk to people who talk about Star Wars for about an hour and a half?
Okay, nobody's going to want to do this.
Do you wish that you had more things to do with your money? Well, if you don't, go to patreon.com/ATGcast and you can join our Patreon program.
Yes, very nice.
Sit and watch Pete talk about Star Wars with people who may or may not be that interested.
See, that's not...
Watch him try to pull an interview out of his rear.
No, okay, you're done. No more.
Oh, man.
No more.
No. All right, so clearly sales is not my thing.
No,
that's
absolutely
fine.
not.
Blowing up Jedi was,
okay.
But apparently I can't even sell a little Patreon
There's no need for blowing up Jedi anymore.
Would you like me to do a review
I would love
week?
you to do a review. Let's get to it.
Okay. That sounded a little like Alvin and the Chipmunks, didn't it? This whole bit is starting to become a little overdone.
Let's not overdo it.
What do you mean overdo it?
Okay.
I want to play it again.
Okay.
Sorry. I'm in the holiday spirit, man. I don't know what to tell you. Okay.
Oh, yeah,
this week's review comes to us from Apple Podcast.
Right.
Somebody called Spy TV Row, or maybe SPI TV. I don't know. I can't figure out these people's names, man. Anyway, it says, listen. Wow, very demanding.
Yeah.
Great podcast and part of a great community. Friendly fella and really great interviews. Put this on your list. You won't regret it. Well, I'm going to put it on my list and check it twice. Here's Cam Ray after these messages.
This is Cam Ray, and you are listening to Around the Galaxy.
Cam.
Oh, hey, Pete. How's it going, buddy?
How's it going?
All right. Wait,
What's
is
up,
tonight
man?
the show?
Tonight's the show. I figured it might be cool if you wanted to hang out with us, and we could do a little.
Yeah, sure. I was just in my lounging gear, but that's okay. It's not videoed, so we're good.
Yeah, no, there's no video. You can.
Good.
People don't need to know that you're not wearing pants right now.
Right.
I think it should be fine.
Okay. I'll remain seated.
Yeah, just do me that one little favor. It's Cam, how are you, man? It's really good to finally get to kind of spend some one-on-one time with you. I've been on a couple shows with you. We both were on the Good Morning America thing from May the 4th earlier this year. It was very cool. We're the two people that got our questions to Dave Filoni. But Cam, for people who don't know you, maybe give us a little bit of your background. Tell us a little bit about you and how you got into Star Wars, man.
Well, I was actually born in another galaxy. It's a long story there. I don't want to get into all the alien rumors and all of that. There's some cloning involved as well as of late, but I'm not going to get into that either. But the story I usually tell people, just to avoid awkward moments like this, is I was born in 1979, so right in the middle of the OT emergence, and so. While I don't remember getting into Star Wars, I just remember Star Wars always being. And so, and a lot of people, that are like you or me, you're, never mind. years my elder.
I'm a handful of years older, yes.
Yeah,
for sure.
yeah, just a handful, dozen or two. And so, I don't remember getting into it, but what I do remember is having all the lightsabers, and my favorite play set was was Jabba's palace. So Return of the Jedi was the real, that's where I was really into it, and that was the time where I was just the toys. I remember opening up a TIE fighter. I remember using that and just playing in the yard, either at my parents or my grandparents, and just destroying everything, because there wasn't saving it to put up on a shelf or anything like that.
Right.
I had a big R2-D2 toy chest at my grandparents that I kept all my toys in, and I need one now, I guess, because I never thought I would start collecting toys again, but now I'm kind of getting there. So it's always been something that I've been into. I've always loved Star Wars. I know one year I was C-3PO one year for Halloween. One year I was an Ewok. So it's just been part of my life. And so that's kind of how it started.
Yeah. It's interesting too, because one of the things that we've talked a lot about on the show lately is just like you were saying, the sort of adults collecting toys or just, wanting to find a part of that universe and be into it. Now you were a fan, during sort of the height of it makes sense that Return of the Jedi was kind of the one that stuck with you. I mean, you were kind of prime age there, but did you kind of walk away from Star Wars for a while when it was gone between the prequels or before the prequels, or did you stick with the books, or did it kind of become the dark times, as people called it?
Right. Now, I don't remember dark times, but I'm sure there was a period, but I was always into Star Wars because we always had the VHS tapes and eventually the DVDs and all that. And I remember when the special editions came out, I was excited about it. I loved it. I didn't know anything about all the, complaining about adding this or that at the time. Right. I thought it was awesome. I still think it's great, because that's kind of what George did. He was always on that cutting edge. So I love that, always looking back, you can be like, that's, doesn't look good to our standards. But yeah, I didn't ever get into the books. I had a thing where I hated reading until probably after college. I'm not sure how I got through college without reading a book, but somehow I did it. I don't know. But no, I didn't really care. So I didn't get into the books. Now I'm really getting into the books. So I feel like I've got a lot of catching up to do. But I know I was in college when the prequels came out, and the second I heard, that Star Wars was back, myself and my buddies, we were all in. I mean, we were writing songs about it. We were I had a hyperspace account through all of that. I'd get home from school and I'd log on to see if I could see someone, catch George or a janitor sweeping up the green screen floor or whatever. So yeah, I mean, as soon as there was more Star Wars, I was there. So.
Yeah, so you were like kind of you've been doing the digital side of Star Wars then for quite some time. You've been, I mean, that you could go back and call that hyperspace stuff some of the earliest social media engagement for Star Wars, I guess.
Oh yeah, I was totally into it. So I did all of that, and then of course the Episode 1 racer. I wore that thing out. So,
I still think that as much as I love things like Jedi Fallen Order and those games, those prequel era games were they were amazing. They were, they kind of captured the best that the systems could do at the time, and they were just they were wild. Now you said you made an allusion to it, but you said that you were writing songs about Star Wars and things like that. So you're a musician. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I guess when I was 6, I started taking piano lessons. I always wanted to, so it wasn't something where I was being forced to do that. And then at about age 12, I started playing at my church every week. Kind of grew up. I still play at church every week, so I've been doing that for forever. But then I got into jazz music, because my grandparents were always playing like Lawrence Welk and all the big band stuff and all. So I always listened to like Sinatra and that kind of stuff. I really liked it. So I got into jazz, and then in high school I was playing jazz, and then I ended up going to college and majoring in jazz piano performance, which, that'll get you places, mostly on YouTube, writing stupid songs about Star Wars. But no, so I've always been in music, and it's kind of what I've always done. When I guess 14 is when I first started playing gigs and playing around restaurants and bars and whatnot. And so it's kind of, but I've always on the side, been making films and doing goofy stuff on that end, whether in plays or, I know when I was a kid, I don't even know how they did this, but it was a camcorder, but onto the audio cassette tapes. And so I would do all kinds of crazy special effects films and things. And so kind of combining it all. So you've always been kind of into performance. How have you for those that may not know, tell us how you've kind of taken that and brought that to your Star Wars fandom? Well, I guess, I'm trying to think when it was, but I started listening to several podcasts about Star Wars a long time ago. And then I would hear kind of calls to like, they would mention Twitter, and they're like, oh, sign up on Twitter, this or that. And I would kind of ignore it because I would just use it on the way to and from gigs in the car. Because, when you're playing music all the time, I don't know, at least for me, I didn't want to listen to music after you've been playing music. I wanted to listen to some sort of talk, some sort of podcast. And so I was like, hey, I wonder if there's, Star Wars podcasts out there. So, and then I kept hearing stuff about Twitter. And then, so finally I'm like, well, let me go ahead and hop on Twitter. I had a Twitter account that I'd made when it first came out. That's probably the only reason I have my handle. And so then I jumped on and just kind of started interacting a little bit. And then, one thing leads to another. You discover other podcasts. You were one of the first ones that I discovered after I'd gotten on Twitter. And so then realized, oh, there's this whole culture, on here. And then one thing led to another. And I'm like, hey, I could maybe, do some of the stuff that I always do just for fun and maybe post it out there for people to see. I've always wanted to play Michael Scott on a new Office, a new Office sitcom or something like that. So I love those kind of roles. So it's like, well, maybe I can just be the Twitter idiot and see where that takes me. So.
I gotta sort of dig in a little bit. How much you have such a unique you have this ability that I think, even though people hide behind sort of a Twitter persona sometimes, you have this really unique ability to just put it out there, and like, one way to say it is like, wow, where's he going? What's he doing with this? But
are you asking me to stand up right now, Pete?
No, we talked about it. You don't have pants on. We don't.
Okay, sorry.
But
it was getting later, you know.
Yeah, well, you know, maybe later on in the show we'll just set the warning up. We'll be fine. Luckily, I'm not monetized on YouTube, so it doesn't matter. Nobody cares. But like you have, what is it? How are you able to just be like, you know what, this is the craziest idea? I mean, you've done like Frank Sinatra impressions. You've got multiple characters. You have, of course, Bub, your Kowakian monkey lizard emperor wannabe. You have your clone sort of skits and things like that. But how do you just like, you're just like, you know what, I'm just doing this? Is it because it's Twitter, because it's anonymous, or have you always been that guy?
It's called ADD. And no, yeah, I like performing. So, and what's weird is, if I think it's like most people who like to do comedy, or I prefer comedy, but I'd love to do serious acting too. But I think, like, just, if I'm just being serious, a lot of times I can be too serious. And that's why I'm like, hopefully, you know, I have to make a joke to lighten things up, because then I can just get I have those moments where I can just be very serious and kind of internal and all of that. And so, but I love to perform. And so if there's a stage, or if there's a camera, or if I can create something and perform and be a character, I've just always kind of been okay with that kind of transitioning. I know in college we would do crazy. I mean, everybody did crazy stuff, I guess, but we would do, it just, I wouldn't mind getting embarrassed in public, you know. And so I do things where, like at a restaurant, and like, okay, when I come back from the bathroom, I'm going to see how many tables and chairs I can pull down with me as I fall to the ground. But then I would stay in character as if I actually fell and was hurt a little bit, because then it's, if you don't do that, they think you're being, you know, then you're in trouble. But if you accidentally fell for real, then they're like, oh my gosh, I feel so bad. But you've taken along food with you, and, you know, maybe several, you know, old ladies. No, just kidding. No old ladies were ever, well, actually there was one time, but I won't get into that. But yeah. And so,
still in court,
you know, but I would just straight face it, you know, and then kind of sit there for a minute. But so stuff, I don't know. It's like, if I'm playing a character, I love it. So while I'm, you know, do all these characters, I also am, it's kind of tough though, because then I feel like, oh no, someone's going to think I'm a jerk, because sometimes I always say I'm not a jerk in real life, but I play one on Twitter. And so, and that comes from just all the drama that you see on there. And so I'm like, oh man, here's another scandal, or another, you know, it's like somebody's fighting about, you know, a fictional science story or a fictional space story. Yeah. So I'm like, okay, let me create a fake drama, just kind of like reflecting on how silly it really is.
Hey, this is Luthien from Girls with Sabers, and you're listening to Around the Galaxy.
You've created, like I said, a couple different sort of. In fact, Bub was asked, was part of the question to Dave Filoni, which is, the funny thing is, I love this, because I feel like our Twitter sort of echo chamber is fairly confined, fairly small, and so for 99.9% of the people who saw that on Good Morning America, it's some goofy guy who's got a puppet of that thing from Jabba's palace. Right. But I'm sitting there like, Bub made it on Good Morning America. It's amazing. It's ridiculous.
Well, and that was my evil, my master plan. I mean, seriously, it's like, you know, obviously there's a balance. It's like, yeah, I would love to, you know, have some opportunities like that. But at the same time, I'm just glad that I have any that I have. But I was, you know, I saw the post from Good Morning America, and I'm like, how could I get on Good Morning America? So I'm like, there's got to be a gimmick, you know. Yeah. You had like the really good, deep Star Wars question, and I'm like, okay, there's going to be a lot of those. So then I was in the line at the pharmacy to get something, and so my son's in there. And side note, he helps with a lot of this stuff, so that's probably why a lot of it's on a 13-year-old level. But no, but so, you know, I'll bounce stuff off of him. He's like, no, but what about this? What about that? But
Dad, more fart jokes. We need
yeah. For me, I love that song. I wish I could come up with like a Star Wars, something that rhymes with me. And he's like, Shmi. I'm like, oh yeah. Well, I'll take credit for that. Thank you. You're a minor, so you can't.
What are you going to sue me? I'm your dad.
You want food and board? But so I wrote a little quick script, came home, recorded it real quick, overdubbed the bub voice in there, and then obviously I thought, it would be so cool if I got on, but never dreamed it would happen. And then even, when we were on the chat, I see all these people, you're on there and a lot of other people that I know. And I'm like, okay, well, at least I'm on the little Jumbotron thing. And then you pop up with your question. So I'm like, I'm definitely out because I know Pete, What are the chances that Pete asked and then I'm going to be the second question, and then it popped up. I was like, what?
It was so cool. How did it feel seeing Dave Filoni kind of chuckle at your little character there that you've brought to life? It
was pretty awesome. To be besties with him now because of that, it's really awesome. It's just I remember that. I always go back to that time. Had that conversation on May 4th with Dave. It was great.
Over for the holidays, I'm sure.
Right. And then Bub made that little video showing, hey, Dave laughed at me, so now I'm canon.
Right.
George approves of Bub, and so anyway, but no, it was pretty surreal. I was at my sister's house. We were visiting family, so we had the whole setup, and of course, everybody else, my whole family's making fun of me because I'm the Star Wars guy. Everybody else is like, "Oh, Star Wars is cool."
Yeah,
like, is that the Spock one? So, but
well, I think first of all, and you said it in some tweets leading up to the show today that it is important to laugh and have fun with this. So many people take Star Wars so seriously. Again, in this echo chamber, this Twitter bubble, there are so many things. There's the actuallys that come out, and the so intense about what is correct and isn't correct in this fictional universe. As a fan of the saga, do you, and as somebody who puts comedy first is the way you think about things, do you think about the funny moments in Star Wars first when you think of Star Wars, or what role does comedy play in the films for you, in the shows?
Yeah, I guess I don't. That's probably not the first thing I think of, but I think that's what we all kind of most of us gravitated towards Star Wars as children, and so I know that was the first thing that probably originally caught me, was the C-3PO and R2, that their banter. I think that's probably one of my favorites, as the two of them. Just the idea that R2, we never hear what he's saying, but then C-3PO, how he's like, I can't believe you would say that. He's like, like what a sarcastic little jerk, And although R2 is awesome, he's probably my favorite droid. But I love those moments. I love anything Harrison Ford does. He's so good with that timing. A lot of it's him, just him adding that in. But the Carrie Fisher, her delivery is great. So I love the cheesiness of it, but there's a certain, it's such a fine line, where it's, people call out like the mom jokes in The Last Jedi, and I'm not getting on any kind of a Last Jedi thing because I love it just as much as I love the other ones. I don't get into all the, this one's terrible, this one's not. But that one didn't land as well for me at first. I was kind of like, it's pushing a little bit on modern humor. But then again, when did those movies come out, And so I kind of wonder, what would George have done with movies in this time period? Maybe he would have kept it the same humor from the late 70s, early 80s. But I think Star Wars also has to grow with each, because people are, and you've talked about this a lot, on past shows and all, but people enter it at different points, like my daughter loves, some of the like the animated series, but then she loves the original trilogy too. But then like my son really likes Rebels, and so, and the sequels. So it really just, where is that person entering? So, but yeah, I think there's a certain type of humor for Star Wars. It's borderline cheesy, but I don't know where I'm heading with that, but it's probably not the first thing I think of, but I love to make fun of it.
Yeah. What do you think is, if you had to pick sort of and you don't have to pick, but as the interviewer, I'm asking you to pick that's sort of a favorite funny moment in Star Wars. And you referenced like the Hux, your mom joke, which was, yes, I agree. It kind of was, it certainly felt a little bit out of character for Star Wars, but it seemed to work. I mean, we need to remember that Star Wars has everything from, just really dry humor to fart jokes and everything in between. And it works because you have this enormous universe to deal with. But so with your sense of humor, what's kind of some of your favorite funny moments from the saga?
Oh gosh. I do like aren't you short for Stormtrooper? I love her delivery of that. Like I said, a lot of the lines that they deliver, like the who's scruffy looking. I just love those moments. Just the lines, the delivery of them. I'm trying to think. I didn't mind Jar Jar. I know there's a whole lot of Jar Jar, whatever, but I guess even when I watched it in college, I didn't mind him that much. I saw him as, he's this version's or this era's like comic relief. I like Salacious Crumb. See, so he's like, that's where Bub came from. We're kind of going back and forth, and then started doing the monkey lizard deal. But yeah, Salacious Crumb. I love just that, just those kind of characters, like the funky, like he's just laughing, but there's just something about it. The Muppet, bringing the Muppets in. I say Muppets, but
right. Jim Henson Creations.
Right. Sorry.
Right.
Yeah. Love the Miss Piggy scene.
Yeah. But I mean, yeah, go ahead.
No, I was just saying, I love Poe's deliveries in general, and that's where we're talking about the mama joke and the whole. So who talks first? You talk first. I talk first. That whole man, it's great, and I think that delivery was great, and the mom thing. Like I think it was pulled off because it was Poe. Right. I think it kind of worked. So,
no, I think you're right. I think that was one of my favorite parts of The Force Awakens, which. Here we are, we're back in the Star Wars universe for the first time in however many years, 20 years and almost 20 years, 15 years. And that joke was that interaction with Kylo was perfect because, I think when we think about Force Awakens, and I think one of the biggest sort of critiques of Force Awakens is that it was a very much a beat for beat retelling of A New Hope, and you can't. It's hard to argue that, and I don't disagree. And I also kind of feel like J.J. Abrams is terrific at rebooting series. His first Star Trek movie was a great reboot of that saga of that era, and Star Wars was the same thing. And Poe was very much Princess Leia facing Vader. Like they march up this young woman who back in the 70s, right? It was damsel in distress. And instead of the, don't hurt me, Lord Vader, it was, you've got a lot of nerve. Right. It was really a very interesting, and it humanizes the masked villain in a way, and I think that's where Star Wars uses humor best. Is it breaks up a moment, and it makes you kind of look into the story a little bit differently. And that's one of those things just as important as the spaceships that look like they've been beat up and the buildings that are in need of repair. It's lived in because it's not all dramatic. It's fun. It's a fun place to play.
No, I totally agree.
And so we have a question here from the chat. It's from Michael Nip, and he said he'd love to know some of your comedic influences. Who's your favorite comedian?
Oh, wow. Okay. Well, I like. Well, growing up, I really liked Jim Carrey. So I like Jim Carrey. I like, but I also like Bob Newhart. If we're talking about older ones, probably my all-time favorite comedian is Dick Van Dyke. I just think, man, the physical comedy and he's like one of those classic comedians. He's got the timing. He's just got it down. I love his expressions and his physical. The Dick Van Dyke Show is probably one of my favorite. What is that called? sitcoms of all time. But then later on, Jim Carrey, Robin Williams, I'm trying to think who else. I liked Bill Cosby's humor back in the day. Clarify.
Right.
The old record.
Super clear about
the records of the comedic material that was presented in front of a live audience. Let me think. So I'm trying to think who. Oh man, I could go on and on. I love Mel Brooks. Anything he does, I love that style. Get Smart is also one of my favorite. Like that whole just the Naked Gun series. I think Leslie Nielsen, man, awesome in that. I love that whole kind of the straight guy, but also the comic relief at the same time. That kind of role, where it's like anyway. So, I'll come up with more.
Well, I mean, the Newhart connection, I can't believe I'm doing a Star Wars podcast and we're talking Bob Newhart, but I'm with you. Bob Newhart was what my dad played me those old records when I was a kid. So, like the Button Down Mind and things like that. And that sort of character creation without the character, I think, plays into some of the stuff that you do. I think, I mean, your Bub character is it's like having the voice that Bob Newhart was responding to, right? For those that aren't familiar with Newhart, his style was to sort of be the one side of the phone conversation you heard, or you only heard his response. And so you get this great opportunity. And look, for those that listen to my show, I have my battle droid at the beginning of the show does the reviews. I have him sitting right over here. But it's fun to be able to, I think, as an actor or as somebody who's interested in performing, it's a certain sort of excitement to try to create both sides of that conversation. And I think that's kind of one of the things that you've been able to do there. And at the same time, you're writing and creating music that's really, really funny and parodies and that sort of thing. What were you into Weird Al at all? And have you?
Yeah, I was just going to say, I was talking about comedians, but then when we're talking musical comedy, Weird Al, I mean, I wore out all of those CDs when they would come out growing up. It was on constant repeat. And so, yes, Weird Al I call him like my musical comedy idol. So I would like to be Weird Al when I grow up. So definitely, I love what he does.
It's great. Well, this might be a good time to play your new song. Speaking of song parodies, so before we play it, you were talking before about how there is always this sort of, I'm going to call it goofy controversy, and I say that recognizing that people take it way too seriously. Right? It's not. Yes. It's controversy about either about plot points or a film itself, or controversy about a lot of the behind the scenes things, and you seem to just address it head on. Whether it's was the character was it Mac Nada? Did I get that right?
Mac Nada, yeah,
yes, which was just like it was a mockery of the YouTube channel guys, and you recently took on some of the Kathleen Kennedy stuff. Do you want to set up the song before I play it, or?
Yeah, sure. And I'll kind of let you into the way I come up with these things, or my ADD mind, because it's not as deep as I would like to make it seem. I was actually I play gigs for a living, and so I was just playing piano one night, and one of the songs I like to play is the song "No Diggity" by Blackstreet, and so I was kind of playing that song, and it just kind of came to me because I'm always, squirrel. And I was like, man, I would love to do some sort of a Star Wars parody on No Diggity. And I'm like, what rhymes with diggity though? And I immediately was like, Kennedy. I was like, oh. and so then I immediately, like, on my breaks, I'm on my notepad, like, I've set up the lyrics to No Diggity, and then I'm like, how can I relate this to Kathleen Kennedy? But I also, there is intention when I do this, and that's why I respect about Weird Al is I've read a lot about him, and his, like, he said he'll literally like work on songs for weeks and months and like change like one word, like should I say the or like down to the every little article, it has intention. And so when it comes to that part, I definitely put a lot of thought into it. And I also put thought into, okay, I'm putting this out there for anyone to see. If it's on the internet, anyone can see it. And not that I'm like, I don't want to offend anybody, because that's never going to be possible. Like I put out MacNada and I had people like attacking me, like who obviously hadn't seen the video because it said KK ruined Star Wars, and spoiler alert, KK was my neighbor, Keith King. So it wasn't even Kathleen Kennedy. And people were like attacking, being like, I can't believe you people and your Kathleen Kennedy hate.
Right.
Like, yeah, hey, watch the video.
And that's where I think a lot of times where comedy works really well is when it can sort of shine a light back on the absurdity of the situation. And what is it? Comedy is tragedy plus time or something like that. But you do have the whole entire Kathleen Kennedy kerfuffle nonstop. I hope she doesn't have any access to social media, because she would,
oh my goodness,
lose her mind. But so let's play your No Diggity parody of with Kathleen Kennedy as the center of it. So here we go.
You know what? Like the producers, Kathleen Kennedy. That ain't down, good law. Lady making movies all over town. Strictly bitch, she don't play around. Covers much ground, she ain't fazed by the crowd. Getting paid is a forte, each and every day. True producer way. Can't get her films out my mind, no. I think about Star Wars all the time. No, you're right. Poltergeist took an AI, the land before time, Back to the Future line. She's got TV in her stash, stacking up the cash from Mandalorian to Bad Batch. By no means average, Schindler's List, E.T. Jurassic. Kathy's got another 10 before she gives in. She ain't stepping down till the Oscar win. The lady won't stop working. Kathy Kennedy ain't about to pack it up. The lady won't stop working. Kathy Kennedy ain't about to pack it up. The lady won't stop working. Kathy Kennedy ain't about to pack it up. The lady won't stop working. Kathy Kennedy ain't about to pack it up. She's got class and style, street credit by the mile. Kathy's resume's wild. Check her IMDb profile. Watch it, Indiana Jones. Kathy keeps collecting balls. YouTube's absurd, accept it, nerds. Lucasfilm's her, so free what you heard. Rain on, rain on, rain on, rain on. Make it rain, make it rain. Rain on, rain on, rain on, rain on. The lady wants to rain on, rain on. Ain't about to pack it up. The lady wants to rain on. Ain't about to pack it up. The lady wants to rain on. Ain't about to pack it up. The lady wants to work in. Kathy Kennedy.
Man, it's ever since you sent me the early version of that, I've been singing that damn song, and I've been singing the Kathleen Kennedy lyrics. Let me tell
you, my 5-year-old daughter is in the car every day to and from school, because I teach at the school she goes to, and so she knows every lyric to it, and I feel, in a way, I'm proud, but in a way, I feel kind of bad, because she also only knows it had to be Luke, and she'll start singing that, and someone will say, "No, it's had to be you." She's like, "No, it's not. It had to be Luke." So anyway,
you're teaching her all the wrong lyrics, but they're all the right lyrics. I kind of feel
at the same time. It's a conundrum. So. Sorry.
This is Matt from Blue Bantha Milk Co., and you are listening to Around the Galaxy.
Have you had any particular success that you've been just amazed by or surprised by as it relates to some of the parodies and the comedy that you've done online?
Well, I'm on your show right now, so that's pretty awesome.
I hope this isn't the pinnacle, because if it is, maybe just delete the Twitter account, because it's not going to get Woof.
No, and I guess, I would love to, I think the best thing is, and it sounds cheesy, but just like the friendships I've made along the way. Yeah. But seriously, it's like the friendships with people like you and just the Twitter community and on a few Discord servers with some great folks and just the people I've met and then ended up meeting a lot of them in person and all of that and getting to be on some of these shows and talk Star Wars. Ultimately, I think it's a dangerous game if you're worried about being liked or having followers. I don't want to be like now if I get that, I'm great with it and I'll use it to the best of my ability, and keep doing what I'm doing. But it's kind of like just something I'm doing for fun. And if something more comes of it, great. So,
yeah, no, and I think you mentioned something that we didn't dig into enough, but it's certainly worth mentioning. And that is the Star Wars community. I mean, I say it all the time. I mean, I'm lucky to have, been doing this a couple of years now and just all the people you meet, again, I think the dark side of the fandom, if you will, gets a lot of airplay, gets a lot of conversation, but ultimately the positivity is what keeps us coming back. And I think you're right. Like same thing with me doing this podcast. My major goal is just to keep having fun doing it. And I might have referenced it a couple of weeks ago, but I was thinking my dad, he's a bass player. I'm a bass player. And he was, he was doing the bar gigs and things like that. And one night he was packing up his stuff and he was like, you know what, this isn't fun anymore. So I'm not doing it. And I think that's a very valuable lesson. And, as soon as this is not fun, which is why I don't understand the people who are so negative on Twitter. If it's not, if you're going onto Twitter to talk about Star Wars because you don't like it, what are you doing? I don't understand that.
Right. I don't understand that either. I mean, my main goal, I just love, I want everybody to get along, but I like to make people laugh or smile. And so if you're doing something that's not happening, then I don't want to be a part of it, So.
Right. Nope. I totally agree with you on that. 100%. So, well, Cam, I know you do listen to the show sometimes. So you are familiar with the fact that we have this 10 questions segment.
Yes. I was hoping we'd do that.
Oh, of course. So I'm going to hit you with the 10 questions and let's see how you do. Again, they can be long answers, short answers. There are no wrong answers. I won't judge you, but people on the internet will. So it's
I'm looking at this chat room. There's definitely judgment happening right now.
Yeah, it's already happening. You can tell they're already hashtag Cam was wrong. I can't believe that's out there already. But so Cam, the first question is favorite Star Wars movie, TV show, or book. Now that you're reading the books, a book may have come into that, but
that's a tough one. But I'm going to stick with The Empire Strikes Back. I love it as a whole. I usually love the middle film. Because it's where everything's going wrong or whatever. But it's beautifully filmed. I think there's a good balance, and all of my favorite characters are in it. So
yeah, that's great. Cool. What's your favorite non-Star Wars movie? If you're going to sit down on a Saturday afternoon and watch a movie that's not Star Wars, what are you going to watch? Okay,
I didn't prepare for these, so this is a tough one because the ADD thing. I'm probably gonna have to go with. Well, I like Lord of the Rings a lot, but that's not a short watch. So, let's just go with that. Lord of the Rings.
All right, that's cool. Should I make you pick one of the three films, or just stick with the whole group?
I'm gonna go with Fellowship of the Rings.
All right,
because when I first saw it in the theater, I didn't know anything about Lord of the Rings. And my friends who had read all the books or the book or whatever didn't tell me it was one of three films. And so at the end, it ends. I'm like, that was the worst ending of any movie I've ever seen. And they're like, it's a trilogy, right? I'm like, oh, that was the best movie I've ever seen. So,
No, it's funny. My wife was the same way. We were just dating, and we walked out of the movie. She's like, "I can't believe it ended like that. That's such a weird ending." And I was like, "Well, we're gonna have to come back in a year and see the next one." Oh, okay, that's cool.
Yep. So,
describe Star Wars in 3 words or less.
I'd have to say fun, family, and hope. Those are my 3 go-tos.
Yeah. Yeah, it's Hope is definitely in there. Family is interesting too because of the fact that it's a bit of a 3 different trilogies with 3 different family messages, and they're all super strong. So that's great.
I love it. And not only the family in the movies, but what it does for our real families, bringing them together. So
yeah. Now you said you have kids. Are they Star Wars fans?
Yes. My son's 13. He's really into Star Wars. Like I said, we bounce ideas off him all the time. The only thing he doesn't like doing is filming things in public. If I want to film something, he's like, somebody's going to see me filming. And so, but other than that, he's really into it. And my daughter, she's 5 and she's also really into it. She knows more than my wife. So she'll correct her. My wife was like, hey, that's Belle. She's playing with a doll. She's like, no, that's Princess Leia. She's like, no, that's Belle, because she had on Belle's dress. She's like, no, I put Belle's dress on Leia. And so she loves Star Wars as well. So
that's great. Yeah, and to your point, it's so great when your kids are into it as well. So
yeah.
What's your favorite Star Wars sound effect?
I would have to say the TIE Fighter. I love that.
Excellent. Yeah, it's I've said it before. It's one of those sounds that's, on its own, if Star Wars didn't exist and you heard that sound, it would make no sense. And seeing it and with seeing the fighter and hearing that sound, it's brilliant. It works so well.
It's awesome.
The next question. What is your favorite droid?
Okay, like I said earlier, I'm going to have to go with R2, although oh man, now I forgot his name. Of course, I really like him so much. I forgot his name. In Rebels, the sassy, Chopper. Yeah. I like Chopper too, but R2 is my favorite.
Yeah. Yep. Very good. Okay, if you could be any character in the Star Wars universe, who would it be and why?
I would be Cam Rebo. I'd be Max Rebo because as a musician, I'd get to play in all these different places. Maybe not, wouldn't just be in Jabba's palace, but I would like to be able to play around and you could watch all of the mayhem or comedy or whatever's happening, but you're kind of, as a musician, you're kind of everybody's friend. Like if you're playing a restaurant or bar or something, typically you can get along with everybody even when they're not getting along. And so I kind of like that. And you just kind of watch. So you're just playing and it's great people watching. So I would be Max Rebo.
All right. Yeah. I think you make a great point. Those of us who are musicians who've played in bars and restaurants, we know that you do have that weird you play a very unique sort of observational role. And I can only imagine what Max Rebo saw happening in Jabba's palace all those years. What is your favorite Star Wars collectible that you own?
Oh, that I own. I haven't been really collecting things too long. A lot of them I've kind of won different contests and whatnot. But I won this Wampa rug, and it's on the floor of my office studio. And on the other side, we got a little bit of a playroom. And so it almost didn't make it because it's like. You have to get the approval by the other members of the household who are more in charge than me. It's like, what is that thing doing on the floor?
Yes,
it's Wampa. It kind of goes with the Star Wars motif. So anyway, that's my favorite because it's kind of gaudy.
That's cool.
And ridiculous, but I love it.
I like that. I think every time I see it, I think I want to get my son one of those Tauntaun sleeping bags because I think it's But it is funny, like you said. I mean, this studio here is like it's literally a closet in the spare bedroom where all the Star Wars stuff lives. So
yep. You gotta put it where you can.
That's right. Just shove it in the corner. Yep. I have to say, it was very difficult to explain this battle droid head away. That was not an easy conversation. All right. So if you could own any spaceship or vehicle from the Star Wars universe, which one would it be?
Oh, wow. I'd have to own the fastest hunk of junk in the galaxy, I think. Yeah. So I've always loved the Millennium Falcon. So that's what I'm going with. I like the sound of the TIE Fighter, but man, it looks super uncomfortable. And I like dressing up. And if I'm assuming the capes come with the ship,
Yeah, I think you can negotiate that into the deal.
Okay.
Sure.
So, or Falcon. Sorry if anybody's crying right now. Falcon, whatever.
Han,
potato.
Falcon. So would you want Lando's Falcon, or Han's?
I'm gonna have to go with the Solo era Lando's Falcon.
Nice. What's your favorite moment in all of Star Wars?
All of Star Wars. Oh, that's tough. Okay, I'm gonna have to say probably when Luke removes Darth Vader's helmet, because I remember that as a kid. Even then it hit me, as I was so happy, and I think it goes with my personality, even with the comedy and wanting to bring people together and for people to get along and everything. It was like, he's so bad. In that moment, it brought him back. It brought him back. He's a human. I can't come up with the word now. I'm a teacher. It humanized him. There we go.
There you go.
And it's like, man, and he was redeemed. And it's like, okay. And I believe that, it's whatever we do or have done, we can always be forgiven and we can start new. Every day's a new day. And so it really hit me. It's like, oh man, that's his dad. It really hurt me that he was such a bad guy. And so to see that he came back and that redemption. So, and that's another big message in Star Wars in general, but I think it's a great life lesson too. And so it'd have to be that.
That's great. The last question is, what is your go-to Star Wars quote?
Probably the luminous beings are we, not this crude matter, because I believe that being a Christian and a spiritual person, I believe that. I think we're more than just the material things around us, and everybody has a soul, and so I'm like, let's not just treat people like they're like something we can walk over or a punching bag, or it's like every person is just as important as the next. And so that's why that really stands out. Like, we're not just crude matter. Like, yeah, we're made up of matter and atoms and all that, but there's more to us as humans. So
that's great. That's a good way to look at it. And yet we still stay on Twitter. It's remarkable.
Well, I feel like maybe I can do a little good.
Cam, thank you so much for spending some time with us tonight. Where can people find you online and find all your great music and your comedy?
Oh, well, you can find me on YouTube at Cam Ray Semi Productions, and then I'm on Twitter at Cam Ray. So those are the two best places.
Excellent. Well, Cam, thank you so much, man. We will talk to you again soon.
Yeah, Pete, thanks so much. It's an honor.
Well, that wraps it up for this episode of Around the Galaxy. Thanks to our guest, and thank you for listening. Make sure to check out our Patreon page at patreon.com/ATGcast. Go to our website at atgcast.com, or follow us on all your social media channels at, you guessed it, ATGcast. Our music is from the band Silver Colored Knob, who can be found on Spotify and Apple Music or wherever you find your tunes. This has been copyright 2021 Pete in the Seat Studios, and hey, happy holidays and may the Force be with you.